Gold Squad TV, top of the morning. Told you my brain never stops even when I'm halfway asleep. So, all right, so I'm gonna seem like I'm a hater and to some Celtics fans, but I want y'all to understand something. I do not hate this man personally. I think the dude is a decent coach, but I personally just don't think he's the one to get us over the hump. I feel Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if we don't get to the conference finals this year, and even Kemba Walker to an extent when he comes back from his injury, will be unfairly blamed, just like they were last postseason, for what Brad Stevens could not figure out. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Brad could not figure out a 2-3 zone. Now, most coaches know that that's like one of the first things you learn as a head coach or as a coach, period, in any level. Deal with a 1-2 zone or a 2-3 zone. It's basketball 101. Now, I'm not trying to act like I'm a coach, but I know a lot of people that are coaches and on lower levels and even, mid levels. I'm not, yeah, I do know people who, being a basketball head, I do talk to people who coach the game and study the game and stuff like that. And they'll tell you a 1-2 zone or a 2-3 zone is like the first things that you kind of learn other than the regular fundamentals. That said, a professional coach not knowing how to figure out a zone consistently is unacceptable. And I felt like Kemba Walker got thrown under the bus by a lot of Celtics fans for the fact that Brad could not figure out a 2-3 zone that Spo kept throwing at him. Now, here's my problem though. Put the zone stuff aside. I watched last night, and I know it's preseason, but I've seen a lot of the same offense that I've been seeing, the same tired, pass the ball to the open man, shoot the three, layups offense that I've been seeing from Brad Stevens the last 3 years. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I think we're hitting that cross point, that cross roads with him. If we don't get far in the playoffs this year, I think, me personally, it's just an opinion, I think Celtics ownership has to start looking at a coaching change. Now, a lot of y'all say, well, what are you talking about? Like, what do you know about coaching? If you feel like that, maybe you should coach. I'm not in any way saying the dude's a bad coach. I just don't think he's the coach for this team. I think if you know listen, I'll go further. If you remember Michael Jordan and Doug Collins, Jordan and Doug Collins had 3 seasons together. You know what the common denominator was together? They always had exciting basketball, but never got farther than the second round or even the conference finals. It gets to the point to where a system becomes too old and it gets outdated, specifically for a player's talent. Now, Michael's talent is like a whole nother level of talent. But I feel like once they made the switch to Phil Jackson, who was relatively unknown at the time, they ended up going to the conference finals the next year. Then they won the title the next year, and then they won titles. Now, I'm not saying anyone is on that bench or anybody in that organization is Phil Jackson. But what I'm saying, at some point, how often is it that players win titles with the coach that drafted them? Not very often. I feel Jason Tatum's game and Jaylen Brown's game is going to be hindered by Brad Stevens because Brad just wants to either have JB sit in the corner. He won't run plays for him. JB has to run plays himself. He won't run plays for JB. He won't run plays for JT. I swear, I see the same offense all the time. And it's like, that's why I think JT and JB have such a hard time sometimes. I would say more JT, Tatum. I feel like sometimes I still see some of the same habits I seen in year 2. I still see some of the same habits. Some of the same habits I seen in year 2, which is, I'm not saying the mid-range jumper is bad, because I love the mid-range jumper. I think that's great. All the great players have the mid-range jumpers. All this whole 3 and layup BS, that's BS. What I'm saying, it has nothing to do with the mid-range jumper that I'm talking about. I feel like Jason Tatum tends to clog him, tends to go and not hit his spots. I feel like he doesn't have a specific spot that he hits that, like, a lot of star players, like Kobe and Pierce both had that right block. Jordan would always go to his left. He would go to his left every now and then. Like, his go-to is the 4 dribbles and the 4 dribbles fade away. 4 dribbles fade away or in the post. I feel like Brad does not want to run plays that will benefit Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's skill set. That's basically what I'm saying to you. And I feel like until that happens, you're still going to see the same Tatum and the same Brown. I think Brown's less of a problem because Brown can hit the 3 and he can hit the mid-range jumper consistently. He can get to the rim. And I think Brown kind of tends to say, screw it, I'm going to go to the rim. I'm going to get to the line. Where Tatum, I think, hesitates because I feel like Tatum shies away from physicality a lot. I really feel like he shies away from physicality. Even with him getting bigger, I still think he shies away from it. I also think that, like I said, I think the system is not conducive to the best skill set that they have as players. What do you hear when you talk about head coaches in the league? You build a system around your stars, and you build around your stars' skill sets. Have you ever heard Brad Stevens ever say, I'm going to build this team based on my stars' skill sets? No. And I feel like, I'm sure Brad's a nice guy personally, but I feel like he's too collegey. He's too collegiate. I feel like he has too much control. And I feel like he doesn't want to relieve some of that control to some of the players and trust in the players. You got to trust in your personnel, man. I think the reason why they had that blow up in game 2 versus Miami where Smart went off and shit because he knows the system sucks. He knows it's a stupid system. Like you gotta be able to make adjustments offensively just like you make them defensively. And if you don't do that, you're no different. You're not gonna have any different of a result. You think Spo ain't gonna throw that zone again on him? It don't matter who the fuck the point guard is. Since y'all want to go and kill Kemba so much, it don't matter who the point guard is. I remember Budenholzer throwing the zone on Kyrie during the semifinals, the year that Kyrie went apeshit and left because he thought he was a genius. He completely disrespected Brad, which, as much as I don't like Kyrie, Brad had that coming that year. That was the 2018-19 season when we underachieved. I think a lot of it just have to do with the fact that I think Kyrie felt that Brad has too much control and he just doesn't want to adjust to the talent that's around him. And the more and more I watch every year, the more and more I feel like Brad was much better when he had Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas. When he had Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas, he had nothing to worry about because those guys were going to always follow his system. I mean, IT was a superstar with us just for those 2 years, but he wasn't a superstar. And Jay Crowder was just a role player. He was our second best player in the team. Offensively, Horford was our second best player overall on that team, but none of those guys are household names. They're not LeBron James, you know what I'm saying? They're not even a Jason Tatum. So And that said, I kind of make it known that this year there needs to be change. If Brad does not adjust to the talent that he has, you cannot attribute that to injuries. You cannot attribute that to players missing time. At some point, we can be fully healthy and we still get spanked. That's on Brad Stevens. Now you're going to sit there and say the players play the games, but the system is ran by the players, by a coach who doesn't want to adjust, who doesn't see anything wrong with the system. He wants to just follow analytics. It's cool to follow analytics to an extent. But when you base your whole entire coaching style on analytics, no good. Even Steve Kerr is a big analytic guy. But even Steve Kerr will tell you the mid-range jumper shouldn't die. Steve Kerr will tell you that the mid-range jumper should never die. And you need to be able to break players down every now and then when you need a bucket. It's not just threes and layups for Golden State. When they weren't winning titles, KD was hitting mid-rangers for them. Harrison Barnes was hitting mid-rangers for them. To balance out Klay Thompson's three-point shooting and Steph Curry's three-point shooting. You're not going to tell me that someone who just completely 1,000% believes in analytics is going to win a title. I've never seen it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to bounce. You got to be able to bounce elements of the game. The fact that they don't throw Tatum in the post to draw fouls or shoot those fadeaways or the patented fadeaways that he has, or they don't post JB enough, it's crazy to me. That said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is Brad Stevens the right man for the job? Or is it getting close to his time to go? Gold Squad TV, back later on. Peace.